Well, welcome to class number 6. I'm a little under the weather, so I might randomly pause the video to cough, or I might just cough right in your ear. We shall see how that goes. All right, so today basically what we're going to do is cover responsive web design, Bootstrap, and a little bit of color theory. Okay, so it should be okay. It should be okay. All right, so responsive web design. Basically, the idea is this. That the website will respond to the canvas that it is displayed upon. Okay, so sometimes it'll be called mobile first design, because the idea is that if you have a cell phone, such as you see here, a person might view the website in this landscape, or they might view it in portrait. And I'm sure you've done this if you've gone on most websites now. At least professional ones will be responsive. It'll look different here, and then you'll see it here, and the items will shift around. So where there might be two sections or two columns, when you do it here, those columns will then stack instead. Because otherwise, either the one column would be off the page, or they'd be squeezed together. Okay. And besides that, even if everything we used was landscape, right? So right now I'm in landscape, obviously, because I'm on a computer. Different things have different resolutions. So you might make a website that's 960. Well, if they're on a computer that's, none of these are there, but like typically a normal monitor for like a PC is, 1920 by 1080, like a TV, right? So if it was 960, that'd only be like half the screen. It would only go across like basically 1/4 of the screen, really. And so that wouldn't really work if you used absolute pixel amounts. Okay, so but you can see like an iPhone, these are all different now, but an iPhone would be 960 by 640, an iPad, a MacBook, an iMac. Basically there's a range of different things, and because there's multiple different devices, you don't want to make which is what we have done thus far, a fixed width website, because basically it's absolute dimensions and it works. It's solid, but it won't look good on all devices. Okay, so these are basically the types that you will see. One is fixed, which is what we already have done, and it's just basically, it's almost like it's a Photoshop document or just an image or a magazine. It is a specific size. It's however wide by however tall. Okay, it's just that many pixels. Liquid is a lot like fixed, but what you do instead. Oh, actually, you know what? I have it right down here. We'll skip this for right now, and we'll just talk about it this way. So fixed, like I said, is this. So if I took my my browser and I expanded it and then contract it, you'll see it'll just get cut off because it's absolutely a certain width. In this case, I just made it 960 pixels, and that's how wide it is. So some advantages are that it's more accurate because you're using very specific values. You have exact control over what it looks like because you're saying it's this size by this size, so there's no other nothing's going to get moved around or shifted or, expanded. You don't end up with orphans or widows. That's where you have like one piece of text left over on the bottom of a paragraph, or one piece of, I guess text is fine. Or you have one up here that's left over in a second paragraph. And your images won't be distorted. Some disadvantages is that you might end up with gaps. Some of it might be cut off. Some of it might have like extra white space at the end. There's a lot of disadvantages to it. Okay, but it's a little bit easier, and that's why that's the first one that we do, because it's a little bit easier to understand. Liquid layout is actually a lot like fixed width. You do the same thing. You do specify a size, but instead of doing it by pixels like you do up here, you do it by percentage. So what you do is you would just take everything and say that there's a certain percentage wide. So I could have like 3 columns and make each column 33%. But what will happen, as you can see here, is that the items will fit. They will expand or contract depending on the size of the browser. Okay, so some advantages that it always fills the screen no matter what. It works with both large and small screens, and it also tolerates user adjustments, which means if they made it bigger or smaller, it will adjust for it. Your site could look really weird though. You can end up you can see that's a really long paragraph, or you can end up with these really short paragraphs that are long this way. So that's kind of weird, which is what I just said there. And there's just other oddities. This is not generally the best way to go, but what's nice about this system is that you can take a fixed width site, such as this one is, and just instead wherever it says like a certain width, just make them 100% or 50% or whatever you want it to be that it's supposed to. And you can have it. It's easy to convert basically a fixed width to a liquid. Okay, but this is not really considered best practice. I wouldn't suggest using liquid. Now, responsive is the last one, so that we'd want to do. And basically the idea with this is that it adjusts for the browser specifically. So actually, if you look at my site here, this is actually responsive. I don't care about you, OneDrive. Get out of here. Get out of here. Okay. I'm not coughing that much. So if I expand out, but if I contract, you'll see that now they stack instead, all the elements. But as I expand, they'll become 2 columns. Oops, looks like I'm missing a picture here. This is really good for mobile first design. It was what I was saying before, where items will stack. They'll also somewhat scale. So the pages always will work with whatever resolution is. It's very mobile friendly. That's why it's called mobile first design. You have more control, so you can decide how big or how small different items are depending on the how wide it is. You can say how wide each column will be specifically. It's a bit more complicated code. It's not too terrible, and it does require more outside code. You can try to code a responsive page on your own. So like in this case, I use what I just put display inline block on all paragraphs, and that sort of kind of works. And there's also flex and these other things, but most of the time you're going to use some sort of outside technology, such as Bootstrap, which is just CSS and JavaScript, or text, or maybe WordPress, which is a whole development environment. Okay, there's other ones too. So it gets a little bit more complicated, but once you know it, it's not too bad. And that's actually what we're going to be doing next. Is going to be Le Bootstrap.